Okay, so now we are going to talk about maxing out. Everything we just talked about in the first portion of this video about the warm-up is going to apply to maxing out. You can also call maxing out, working up to a 1 rep max. But everything that we just talked about is going to apply to this, okay? So that's why I wanted to do both of these videos together, is because if you don't understand the warm-up process, then you're probably going to mess up the max out process. As an intermediate lifter, once you are complete with the novice phase, you are going to need to routinely, once a month, once every couple of months, you are going to need to be able to train with heavy singles, okay? One of the things that one of the mistakes a lot of lifters make is that after the novice phase is they don't train heavy enough, okay? They keep trying to stay with the same methodology that worked for them as a beginner, which is kind of a moderate set rep range, the 3 sets of 5 type deal. And as you get stronger, the more frequently you're going to have to handle those heavier loads. So if you want to, if you want to deadlift 500 pounds, 600 pounds, if you want to squat 500 pounds, you're going to have to on occasion handle some of those heavier loads. Okay, you can't. Not everybody can get there just by training in those kind of middle ground rep range like with 5s. Okay, you're going to need to routinely expose yourself to loads at 90% or above. Okay, and that's going to include some 1 rep maxes. Okay, if you're working off of a program that's percentage based, you're going to have to fairly regularly hit some 1 rep maxes so that those percentages stay relevant. Okay. Percentage-based programs can work, but they're only useful when they're based off of a relevant 1 rep max, okay? So a percentage-based program based off of a 1 rep max we did 6 months ago is not really gonna work, because that 70%, 80%, 90% is a percentage of nothing, because what you did 6 months ago may not be what you can do today, okay? So if you're gonna participate in these intermediate and advanced programs that have you working up to heavy singles on a fairly routine basis, you need to know how to do that correctly, so that 1, you don't get injured, and 2, you're not constantly missing weights. Ideally, in training at least, we don't want to have a lot of misses, okay? And then the same thing applies to a meet. If you're a competitor and you want to go train it, you want to go to meets, 2, 3, 4 times a year, I definitely encourage that. But if you do, you want to have good meets, okay? You don't always want to be bombing out because you don't know how to select your loads appropriately. You don't know how to warm up to the right loads, that sort of thing. So a lot of times lifters could get more than they got at a meet if they knew how to work up in a more efficient manner. So maxing out. What is my philosophy on maxing out, okay? A couple little steps here we're going to think about. First and foremost, it goes back to what we talked about in the warm-up thing, is always plan well. Always know what you're going to try to hit on that day. So even if it's been a while since you've worked up to a 1 rep max, have an idea in your head. You have to kind of go by feel. You have to listen to your body a little bit when you're working up to a 1 rep max, but you can't just leave it all to chance. You can't leave it totally randomly based on feel. You have to have a number that you're trying to target in your head, okay? And so the way that I do it, whether it's myself or whether it's I'm training another client, we always go for we always set our target number as a very, very conservative small PR of whatever we did last time. Okay, so if the last time we bench pressed, we got 315, today's target is going to be 320. It's going to be a very small increment, usually on an upper body lift, not more than 5 pounds, on a squat or deadlift, usually not more than 10 pounds. And what that does, that just ensures that whatever happens, that we at least walk away with a small PR, okay? And this is what I do for meet planning as well. I always base everything on meet planning for people based on their second attempt. Okay, so you have 3 attempts on each lift. I always organize everything around the second attempt. And the second attempt is always a conservative personal record above whatever their last meet PR was. So if the last time they squatted in a meet, they did 500, their second attempt, usually I'm going to target something like 505, 510. And that just makes sure that if nothing else, they may not win the meet, but if nothing else, they walk away with a small meet PR, and that's usually a good victory. Okay, so first things first, always set a small PR for your target. So if it's in a meet, if you're training with me, that's going to be your second attempt. Or if you're just training in the gym, this is going to be your target number that you're going to base all of your warm-up sets off of, is a conservative PR. Okay, your final warm-up set, just like we talked about in the warm-up video, is going to be 5 to 10% off of that small PR. So if our last meet PR was 315, we're going to go for 320 today, okay? Our last warm-up set, so this is our work set here, our last warm-up set is going to be 5 to 10% of that. Okay, so let's just say 30 pounds off of that would be 290. Okay, it's going to be somewhere between 290 and 300. Okay, that's probably going to be, and that's going to be for one. Okay, just a single. Okay, again, we don't want to tire ourselves out with that last one. We're just making sure that our nervous system is primed for 320, but not worn out. Okay, so this would be our last warm-up set. Would be a 5 to 10% reduction of whatever our small PR number is. Okay, the third attempt. So if you're at a meet, okay, or if you're in the gym, if you get this, okay, if you set that small PR. So last time we did 315. Today we got 320. So we set a small conservative PR. If we're going to go again for another attempt, so again, if you're in a meet, this would be your third attempt, or it's just, if you're in the gym, it's your next set. We're going to go by feel on that one, okay? Now, if you're in the gym and you got 320 and that was a conservative PR and it was just an all-out grind, it was one of those reps that took you, 5, 6, 7 seconds to lift it up, you're done, okay? You set your PR, it was a grind, you're done. If you don't need to try another one, you don't need to have misses at these types of weights, because it sets you up for injury, and it's not good on your nervous system to have a lot of missed reps with heavy weights. Okay, so if it's a real grinder of a rep, then you're done for the day. If it was kind of medium, it was hard, but you feel like maybe you've got a little bit left in the tank, then you go for another small PR, and maybe that's 325, to 330 at the absolute most. Okay, so you just try to set another small conservative PR, and then win or lose on this one, you're done. Okay, and this goes, actually, we're skipping ahead to number 5 here, which is a limited amount of attempts. You don't want to have 5, 6, 7 heavy PR attempts during a workout. Usually it's 2 to 3 at most, and then you want to go ahead and shut it down, because your nervous system's probably going to be fried by then. And again, too many attempts like that, where you're either missing weights or you're just barely locking them out, you're going to be setting yourself up for injury if you do too many of those. Okay, so you want to be conservative in the number of attempts that you take. Okay, so again, if this one, a little bit of gas left in the tank, then you go up and you try to set another maybe conservative PR if you want to. If this was very easy, okay, so if our targeted number for the day, which was 320, if we get on there and we just smoke 320, all right, and you want to try a bigger one, go ahead and try a bigger attempt. Maybe you jump up to 340, 345, something like that, okay? So maybe the last time that you did a 1RM, you were a little under the weather, so you didn't get quite what you hoped, and today you're feeling great, everything's on point, and so you might have a massive PR. So again, we're going to go by feel a little bit on that third attempt. So when I take a lifter to a meet, I usually don't know what their third attempt is going to be, because I base it on their second attempt. And again, if it's a real grinder, it's going to be a very, very small jump. If if they totally blow it out of the water, then we're going to make a big jump. So I base their third attempt based on what I see in terms of their form and their technique and their bar speed. Okay, and you'll just have to do that on your own by feel. Okay, I have a pretty good trained eye for that, so I have a pretty good idea of what a lifter can do after I see their attempt. I have a pretty good idea of what they can do on their third attempt. Okay, it'll take you some work to get objective with yourself and with your clients if you're a coach on how to select that third attempt. But whether you're in a meet or in the gym, the process is basically the same. Okay, so target a small PR. Last warm-up set is 10% of that, and then go by feel on that third one based on how the second attempt looked. And that's basically the max out process in the gym or at a meet. Okay, and again, you want to have a limited amount of attempts. You don't want to keep hopping around 5, 10 pounds in either direction trying to find the exact amount of weight. You only get a couple of attempts, and if you're on something like a squat or a deadlift, the heavier the weight, the more nervous system activity there is in that lift. So a deadlift, a rack pull, a heavy squat, things like that. Certainly things like a pin squat, things like that are very fatiguing on the nervous system. You don't get more than 1 or 2 attempts on that, and if you have a miss, you're pretty much done. Okay, so if you overshoot it a little bit, let's go back to our example of your previous PR was 315. Okay, so what you should try today is 320. You should try a very conservative PR. But instead you get greedy and you say, well, last time I got 315, I'm going to try 335 today. All right, and you try it and you get it halfway up and you sit there and strain with it for 4, 5, 6 seconds, but you don't lock it out and it comes back down, well, you're done. Okay, you may have been able to get 320, 325, maybe even 330, but that miss that you had at 335, you're smoked. Okay, so because you got too aggressive, now you don't know where you are actually. You don't really know what your 1 rep max is because you overestimated and you gassed yourself. So you don't really know what your 1 rep max is, and you can't go back down. Okay, you're smoked after that. Okay. And you didn't set a PR. So now you missed a heavy weight and you walk away from that workout or from that meet kind of, feeling a little bit down because you walked away with just a miss and not a PR, and you don't have a chance to go back and set another one. So and certainly in a meet, you guys know if you've competed before, you can't go back down. All right. You're not allowed to take an attempt and then go back down and wait and try something lighter. Okay. In the gym, you can, but it doesn't always work. All right. Again, if you sit there and strain like that, certainly with a deadlift, you sit there and get a deadlift up to your knees and sit there and strain with it, for 3 or 4 seconds and don't get it, well, you're done. I mean, you can take 50 pounds off the bar and try it again, and you may not get it at all. Your nervous system's shot. Okay. So always, always, always set your PR attempt very, very conservatively. Make sure that you get it, and then you can try another one. And if you miss it, you miss it. You don't worry about it. But at least you walk away from that workout with a very small conservative PR and something useful to set up maybe your next little block of training with. Okay. Now, let's talk about if you don't have a 1RM on record. Okay. You've never maxed out before, so you don't know what you can get for a single. Okay. So how do you do that process? Well, my best advice is to start off with an estimated 1 rep max and see if you can get that. Okay. Now, if you've been training on a program where you're doing rep work, okay, you can kind of use those rep maxes as a way to estimate what you might be able to get for a 1 rep max. Okay. So if you've done a program where you've got kind of a limit set of 5s, okay, I can do 300 pounds for a set of 5, and that's really it. That's my limit. Chances are that is somewhere between 80 and 85% of your 1 rep max. Okay, that depends a little bit on the lifter. Okay, a highly neurologically efficient lifter is probably going to be closer to 80%. Okay, a less gifted lifter, certainly a female lifter, might be closer to 85%. In fact, a female lifter might be closer to 90% for a 5RM. So, but we're going to just talk about kind of the average here. So a 5 rep max is going to be 80 to 85% of what you can do for a 1 rep max. Okay, so use that kind of setup. All right, well, I know 300 is 80% of X, so I'm going to shoot for that and kind of see what happens. And you'll have to kind of feel around a little bit to see how close you actually are. Okay, if you've got a 3 rep max on file, so okay, I can do 350 for a triple. I just did that a couple weeks ago. I know I'm good for that. 350 or a 3 rep max is probably around 90%. Okay, so you're probably about 90% of what you could hit for a heavy single. A max effort double is probably around 95%. Okay, now these rep ranges right here, I used 5, 3s, and 2s. I only went for reps that are 5 and below. Okay, anything above 5, your best set of 8, your best set of 10, your best set of 15, is not at all useful for determining a 1 rep max. Okay, there's too much of an endurance component in that to be useful for estimating a 1 rep max. So the further away you get away from 1, the less predictable that rep max is. So a max effort double is actually probably a better predictor of your 1 rep max than is a set of 5. Again, that's kind of why I used a range on this one. There's not really much of a range on this one, okay, or as much. Okay, so the further away you get away from what is actually 100% effort, the less useful those estimates become. So, and then once you've got a rep max on file, then that will become a useful number to use. But we want to just really look at repetitions that are 5 and below. Okay. The other side of that is if you've never done heavy singles before, and I always tell my lifters this, is learning how to grind out a heavy single it's not just a physiological thing, it's a skill. Okay, it's a skill set that has to be developed with practice. Just like your squat mechanics are a skill, or the deadlift mechanics are a skill, the next level to that is learning how to maintain those mechanics and stay with a lift for a very long, drawn-out set. Okay, And you see a lot of people when they get in, the first time they get into programming where they use a lot of heavy singles, heavy doubles, things like that, they quit on sets very, very early, okay, because they don't know how to grind, all right? A more experienced lifter is gonna have to learn, if you're gonna cross those certain thresholds into the 500 squats, the 600 deadlifts, you know, the 300, 350 bench presses, the 200 plus presses, if you're gonna cross into those certain thresholds, you're gonna have to learn how to grind against heavy loads. And I see way too many lifters quit. I do form checks for people, you know, every single week online, and I see way too many people quit at the first sign that it gets heavy. And you know, if it's not a nice smooth set of 5, well, they're just not going to do it. And you've got to learn how to push through those heavy ones. And you know, sometimes you may have a single, you know, that takes you several seconds to lock it out, and it's going to be really, really slow. But those are the reps that make you strong. And you've got to learn how not to quit on those loads, and also how to stay focused. Okay, you've got to learn how to stay focused during those lifts, and just only focus on your mechanics for that, and not think about, oh my gosh, I'm fixing to get crushed by this weight. Okay, and that just takes practice. That's only something that can come with time. Okay, so if you're new to this, you know, these estimates may not be as useful, because you may be strong enough to squat 400 for a single, but you may not have the mental capacity yet to squat 400 for a single, because you just don't know how to grind yet. And what you think is extraordinarily heavy is actually not that heavy, okay? But again, it just takes time. That's why we want to just stay under the bar. We want to keep training the 5s, but we want to get some experience under the bar training those heavy singles. So if you're going to do it, you need to know how to do it. This is the right way. Let me know if you have questions, and I appreciate you watching the video. Thanks a lot.